Okay, by way of introduction, my name is Ken Van Heining. I'm the engineering manager for the SQL Server tools, basically the client tools, mostly the things you download and use, as well as the client drivers, things from SQL Client through ODBC, JDBC, all those wonderful things. And joining me today is...
My name is Alan Yu. I'm a program manager working on the same team with Ken to build these awesome SQL tools.
Yes, awesome. That's the key word. All right, so today we're going to mostly spend our time talking about a new tool we've been working on for a few months called Operations Studio. And but before we get going, we want to spend a little time setting context. I usually like to ask, so first off, how many folks here have even heard of Operations Studio? Okay, most of the people, that's good. And then how many folks here use SSMS today? Just about everybody. That's pretty consistent every session I've ever done. What about SSDT in Visual Studio? How many folks use that? Awesome. And then, Chris, that's funny. And then how about the SQL extension we have for Visual Studio Code? Have you guys checked that out at all? Some? Okay, nice. All right. So mostly that's kind of baselining. We also have some command line tools we're working in Python, a whole bunch of stuff. Things, but for this session, like I said, we're going to mention mostly the Operations Studio project we've been working on. And as I mentioned, our flagship tools, I usually, before I talk too much about Op Studio, I like to get ahead of the question that everybody asks, which is, wow, are you killing SSMS? It's like, that's the thing everybody asks me. That and can I have a dark theme for SSMS? And I unfortunately have several targets on my back and my head, and the answer is unfortunately no. Please come yell at me later. It's just too costly. Literally there's hundreds and hundreds of screens in SSMS code literally that goes back to, if anybody here programmed in GDI, Win32 UI on Windows? Yes, I have a lot of that. It's not very theme aware, and it's not very simple code either. There's a lot of code there. I mean, relative to everybody's, anyway, it's UI code, but it still was never written with the concept of themes or even view models or anything modern that we might consider testable and things today. So that's why. But anyway, and so these are our two flagship tools. Obviously, SSMS is used by virtually every SQL Server customer to manage SQL Server, and it's awesome in what it does, in that it does literally everything. I think there's a checkbox for every permutation of the grammar that SQL Server understands. That said, it has a pretty high learning curve, and there's a lot of things there. It also is what it is, and I say that actually in a great way, because it's almost 15 years it's been in market now. I think from the early previews, it obviously launched in 2005. So we're not changing it. We ship it, and I love it. I actually still work in that. That's what I still write code there every now and then. And we're still going to keep shipping that. So if anybody's concerned that it's disappearing, that's not the case. But it isn't what I call a point of innovation any longer. We're not sitting there back at Microsoft going, Alan, what's the cool thing we should do in SSMS UI, and how should we redo Object Explorer? Because I'm pretty sure that would also get me shot by just as many people. So we really don't innovate in the design of SSMS. We just keep it current with SQL Server, trying to fix bugs, trying to improve performance, and just keep those regular updates coming. So that's really the main thing for there. Similar with SSDT, that's our project inside of Visual Studio. It's our richest developer experience, and that's the way it's going to be for a long time. It's got some great features. I'm sure that everybody always wants more, but it does have some great features and great capabilities that you don't find anywhere else. And both of those, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about numbers, but whatever. There's like 2.5 million active users on SSMS right now on the most modern version. So it's not going away. That's my point there. And there's still people that use 2014, 2012. Really like those people to move forward, but sometimes they can't. And similarly with SSDT, it's around, I think, 350 or 360,000, something like that. So again, very prominent flagship tools for SQL Server. So I don't like to go into new stuff and make it seem like we're just forgetting about the important things. I've had that question too many times. But that said, I also got called out, I think it was about 2.5 years ago. I did this great thing called the SQL Tools Renaissance. In fact, I think I talked about it at SQL Bits, and it was super exciting. It showed all these things we're going to fix in SSMS and do all these great things. And then 6 months later, people were like, hey, so how's that SSMS stuff coming? And I was like, well, we had a little change of plans. And the plan was that little thing about Linux. And really, it came down to, wow, we've got this cross-plat strategy now. We've got a whole Linux community we're trying to get out to. And running your SQL management tools only on Windows didn't fit the strategy. And so we really had to make some tough calls. And that really was the genesis for us pivoting, saying, OK, SSMS, we'll keep it current, we'll keep fixing bugs, but we really need to build out a new tool set so that if you're going to work on a Mac, you don't have to run Parallels or some other thing. You'll actually have an offering or a management tool that works natively on your Mac. Actually, speaking of which, how many of you use Macs for development? It's OK now. Balmer's gone. It's OK. Yeah, a few. OK, not a lot, but some. We actually have a pretty decent number starting in some of our new tools showing. In fact, there's people using SQL Server on Linux. Download on Docker Hub, the SQL Docker image, SQL Server on Linux Docker image, over 5 million polls. So there are people using it. What it's being used for, that sort of stuff, obviously doesn't compare to production workloads yet on Windows, but it is growing and there's a lot of traction there. And we're seeing people that like to develop and like to work with containers and they like to develop on Mac. So that really changed our strategy. And then along the way, we did the VS Code thing. We said, hey, this is a really great tool. We'll put an extension there. But VS Code's mission is all about being a really tight editor. So when we go and say, oh, I want to put in AG, availability group management, or SQL agent management, or all these other things that really don't fit inside of VS Code. But we worked with the VS Code team, and we decided we're going to build Operations Studio, but we build it on VS Code core. And what that really means is we created a fork, but we keep them in sync. And I have engineers that grin and bear. Some of that's a lot of grunt work. But we get a lot of improvements because they're continuing to invest heavily in the core editor experience, the language service protocol they've defined, and a lot of the features that you see on the Monaco editor, the things that we build, we actually can bring that into Op Studio and benefit from those. And then we're able to, in our version of that core, be able to then extend it and have much more visual extensions. We can do a lot more around showing rich UI, graphs, things that really just are out of scope of the mission that VS Code is after. And that's really how we ended up here. That's another very common question, is why isn't this just all in VS Code? And really, it's that fundamental reason. So as I mentioned, cross-platform is a big thing. That was a driver for us. We obviously want to have a modern technology stack, as I kind of alluded to. I don't even know how many tens of thousands of lines of GDI code. It does work, but it's not modern. And so if you want dark theme, I got a great tool that we're building. And so you'll have as many themes as you want to have. The other thing that culturally we're changing, this is really not to be what's the right word? Not to be just a cliche, but we really are part of this whole new Microsoft attitude. Sorry, we used to be called Project Carbon. Op Studio is actually out on GitHub. So you can see the whole team, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about that, but the whole thing is open source. So you can get in. In fact, I'd love any entrepreneur. How many of you folks know C#? Awesome, every one of you. I would love to have you help us. And so there's a long journey for us. And whatever feature you want to build extensions, all that stuff. We'll talk all about that. But just keep that in mind. It's out there. And if you know C#, you can help a lot. Some folks are just T-SQL experts. And that's OK, too. We'll talk about how you can help as well. So anyway, with that, I want to turn it over to Alan. Let him just do a quick tour, because not everybody's seen Operations Studio. And then also, was it yesterday? I lose track of time. Yesterday, right?
2 days ago.
2 days ago. See, Alan keeps me straight. 2 days ago, we released the May update. So we've done an update pretty much every month, and we'll talk a little more about kind of the roadmap and stuff. But I wanted him to give you a little tour of it.
All right. Thanks, Ken. Switch over. All right, cool. So welcome to SQL Operations Studio. Please let me know if the text is too small. I could try to zoom in a little bit closer. But this is a very familiar interface for those of you that have used Visual Studio Code before. So one of the things that Ken mentioned is that the #1 most requested feature for SSMS is a dark theme. So we do have some of the capability that we pulled with monthly, not always monthly, VS Code refreshes. And one of the first things that we got was support for dark mode. So let's show this off. There you go. So now we have dark mode for your SQL management editing experience. So very small win there by being able to have VS Code as our shell. So let me switch it back for readability purposes. It's something that they recommend is have a lighter background. OK, cool. So the most common task that most users will use for SQL Operations Studio is to execute T-SQL queries. In order to get there, you first need to connect to your server. So on this left-hand pane here, we have the servers tab at the very top. So if you click on it, you can minimize it and open it as well. But let's make a new connection. So let's connect to, OK, so by clicking this Add New Connection at the very top, it opens this connection pane on the right-hand side. So what this gives you is you could see your most recent history. As you can see, I made lots of different connections to lots of different databases here. So I can go through and choose which one I want to use. And then you have your standard information that you would that's very familiar to you when you use SSMS. The one difference is that we also have these, I guess, server groups just called out here. So then you can organize them. For example, if you want to have a test server group, dev server group, or production group, you can easily organize your server groups. So for now,
real quick, how many folks here use registered servers in SSMS? How many folks have no idea what I'm talking about? A few more than that. How about CMS? If you use registers, do you use the CMS or just local? Local. OK. So for those that know what I'm talking about, all 5 of you, think of what Alan's describing here as register servers plus the connection dialog kind of merged together so that it's front and center. First-class citizen is this idea of grouping. Folks usually ask, well, what about sharing that with my friends? We can get in it offline. We can talk about how you can share that information kind of in a manual way today. But eventually, we do want to look at how do you share that with a team and actually be able to say, I have these semantic groupings of all my servers, and how do we all collaborate together? But thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. So we're going to connect to localhost, which is just SQL Server 2017 Developer Edition running on this computer. So we'll also set this for now in our test server group, which is right here, and we'll make a connection. So right away, you'll see this dashboard, but let me not discuss this quite yet. You have your familiar Object Explorer on the left-hand window here. So let's drill down into our demo database for now by clicking on Databases, and then we'll choose the Wide World Importers database. So we'll run our most basic query here. So by right-clicking on here, you can execute a basic query, such as select star. You get your basic IntelliSense, warehouse with tab completion, and let's do stock items. Stock items. F5 to execute it. And then you will automatically get to see the results pane here. One thing that was mentioned a lot in Twitter is that people would like to be able to easily close the results screen. So there is custom keyboard shortcuts you can add by going on this gear icon on the bottom left, and then click on keyboard shortcuts here. So you can actually have this shortcut available if you want to toggle your results screen.
So that's actually really hard for me to even read. How many folks here have presented with SSMS, had to do a presentation before? Anybody? How did you make it big enough on the screen? Yeah, pain in the butt, right? Oh, sorry. Pain in the backside, right? So can you make that bigger? How does that work?
OK, so I believe I can, let me first minimize
Put him on the spot. This isn't planned in the demo.
Right. So like doing Control+, you can make the screen a lot bigger.
So it's just built in. You get Control+ support, and it's so much nicer. So that's all I was trying to show off. Sorry, it's
no worries,
nature.
no worries.
It's just a little ad hoc.
This is a little bit too simple of a query for our purposes for our demo. So let's choose something a little bit more complicated. But it's about like 20-ish lines. So I don't want to type that all out for you, because that might be a little bit boring. So instead, I'll just type out a basic shortcut. So if I type in table space, you can see that we have this code snippet already available here. And if I do tab, it will automatically display all that T-SQL that we want to use for this demo. So in order to configure this, you might be wondering, is you go to the same gear icon on the bottom left, click on Command Palette, and then type in user snippets. So one thing that we allow you to have a lot more customizability with SQL Operations Studio is we have a bunch of these ways that we handle JSON files. So if we click on tablespace top 10 code snippets, which is the shortcut for this code snippet, you can see how it's configured. So if you have a T-SQL query that you're running constantly or you're setting up a demo, this code snippet feature is a really nice way so you could easily bring up your T-SQL queries. Great. So now that we have this awesome T-SQL query that we want to have, let's run it. And there's a bunch of data here. The main thing is that we have a string and that we have some type of integer columns on the, in this data set. So what we can do with this data is that on top of saving it as things such as a CSV, JSON, or Excel, one new thing with SQL Operations Studio that we have is that you have this View as Chart feature. So by clicking on View as Chart, you can now see a visualization of your data. And just really easily just render, you just click on that button. You can also choose different types. So if you want to see a pie or if you want to see a donut, so you have that option too, although I don't know what you're going to do with this information. But let's go back to horizontal bar. So this is something that you could help build these visualizations really easily just using T-SQL queries. So the next step here is that, OK, it's great that we could run this T-SQL query, but I want to see this visualization as soon as I connect to my database. So what you can do there is to build insight widgets. So if you see on this very top left icon here, you have this Create Insight button. So when you click on Create Insight, we again have this nice JSON format where it automatically will give you this exact same visualization that you see generated from this T-SQL, provided for you in this JSON format. So you can go through and change the name, and you could set the query file for where this query is currently located. And then you just have to copy over this whole insight widget, and then you go to your settings. So by going to the gear and click on settings, you immediately see two different things. The left side is a bunch of commonly used settings that help you. You don't actually make any changes on the left-hand side. You make all your changes on the right-hand side. So by looking through our user settings here, we can go down to our dashboard.database.widgets configuration and just simply copy over the same JSON format into our user settings here. So I've already done that before this demo just to make sure it works. And we have table spaces right here. So this is the exact same widget. And as a way to confirm it, this is the widget we're seeing right now. If we go to our Wide World Importers database and right-click on it and click Manage, you can now see that same widget displayed on your dashboard. So this is the key thing is that now if you right-click on your databases here, you now have access to what we call as a dashboard. So this whole experience that you see here, we like to use dashboard as a term. They may go through a different name change, but for now we call it dashboard. Here's where you can host all your insight widgets. So all of these insights that you're seeing here are all powered by T-SQL queries. So if you're curious to see, for example, how are you checking active connections, you can click on the three dots here and click Run Query, and it'll tell you what query is powering in the back end. So let's go back to here. And on top of that, we also have additional features here. You have a search box to easily look up tables, and you also have these very commonly used tasks, such as backup, restore, and executing a new query. So this is the dashboard experience, and I also showed you how to basically add insight widgets powered by your T-SQL queries. The key thing that we want to do with this dashboard is that we also want to make it extensible. And Ken would like to go more into that.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Alan. So you saw some cool stuff there. I hope that it sparked an interest, because one thing that Alan showed is what I've coined T-SQL extensibility, which is not at all what it probably means out of context. But the point really is, and I've got a lot of feedback from DBAs, this is a pretty unique crowd here. Most sessions that are more about managing SQL, the number of people that know C# or are comfortable with C# is very low. But what they are is brilliant at writing T-SQL and performant T-SQL. And there's people out there that have these great things they would like to contribute, but they don't know how to code in C#. So this whole layer is all about this thing of being able to create those insights I know, it's a really fancy slide. So it's, yeah, anyway, I could see the look on your face. And so just to keep it simple, there's really three types of extensibility. And this first one is this whole concept of an insight widget and making it super easy to be able to add those visualizations without having to write a bunch of code. And so that point is actually an extensibility point in Operations Studio. And so we're actually making it so that people will be able to do their own manually, kind of the way that Alan was showing there. But we'll actually be able to show you a little bit more. There's a whole way that you can add these and share them as extensions into Ops Studio. So if you have one, and in fact, we'll talk a little bit about one that we've gotten to do with one of our SQL MVPs and how we've been able to take his intellectual horsepower and apply it into the code and be able to show, hey, look, we have this extension. And so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But that's one level of extensibility that is really important to us, is enabling those people that are super smart about SQL Server being able to share that with the community through extensions in Operations Studio. The other two are really, if I go to the next one to the right, it's a little more complicated. And that's saying, well, I actually want to contribute to the core user experience that you're using in Operations Studio. And so this will be things like extending the Object Explorer tree. We have great partners today that, I don't know, they work some sort of managed code black magic to extend SSMS. and they add in cool things like source control and all these things, but they're doing it really in an unsupported way. And it's really an unfortunate thing that we don't have a great way to support that ecosystem. Anybody guess how many? SSMS does not support extensions. That's like fundamentally, if you ask SSMS or ask Microsoft and you call support and say, hey, I'm using this extension, see, customer support will say, uninstall your extension. It's not supported. Now I'll help you. But any guess as to how many extensions we have for SSMS, the latest version? Just a guess. Anyone? 10? 50? Nope, like 170. 170 extensions for it. I know because you have to ask me for an ID. And so I have a name, an email address, and I give an ID to everybody. And actually, some of those people have more than one. And that's where we kind of keep track of them. There's a lot of gory details technically why we did that on package load and everything. But fundamentally, for a completely unsupported, undocumented thing, it's amazing. So I know there's a demand out there to extend the tools, and people want to do their stuff. With Ops Studio, from the ground up, we said open source and extensibility. Those are the two things. So you're not going to see a lot of features, per se, in Ops Studio as the first thing we do. Mostly, we're building features, and then we're forcing ourselves to do them as extensions. And how do we do this? How do we add this to the UI? How do we do? And so we're forcing ourselves. And in fact, I think Alan will show the beginnings of SQL Agent coming to life. But we're doing it internally all as an extension, as if we were outside adding SQL Agent manageability to Ops Studio. So then the third one, which is very subtly on the connection dialog, I don't know if anybody noticed, the first field was connection type. Okay, SQL Server, what else is there? Well, it turns out, so similar to, are you guys familiar with the language service protocol in VS Code at all? So one cool thing VS Code guys did, they're really smart, is they said, you know, this whole idea of statement completion, snippets, all this stuff is really, we could define it as a standard, as a protocol, and then the VS Code is one implementation, but you could actually do that in other products or other editors. And in fact, they've had good luck with, I think, Eclipse and IntelliJ, all looking at the language service protocol. Interesting, even Visual Studio proper is now looking at supporting the language service protocol. But we actually took that and ran with it. All great ideas usually are built on other great ideas. And we took that and said, you know, managing data conceptually is also something we could, at least as part of it, standardize. I mean, getting relational data, putting in a thing, editing data, selecting data, things like that. So we decided at a foundational level, we're going to actually do SQL Server as an extension, and we call these data service extensions. So the fact that Ops Studio is talking to SQL Server, architecturally, now we don't have anything else done with this yet, but architecturally, it's an extension. So we have this mindset of saying, oh, well, if we want to talk to other things, then we could actually have a different connection type. And in fact, we were talking, maybe this is a way we should talk to availability groups. This is a thing I was talking with the team yesterday, so don't if it doesn't happen exactly this, don't come say, Ken said so. But the general idea is, you guys, anybody here, you guys use availability groups at all? Or at least kind of know what they are? It's a really weird thing to go and connect to SSMS and find your availability group in a server, right? It's a conceptual model that's bigger than a server. Yet you only can see it from different points depending on which server you connect to. And if you talk to some of our larger enterprise customers that have 1,000 servers, and in there somewhere is a graph of all of their availability groups, and they can never see it. So conceptually, maybe we should have a connection type of availability group. And then you could say, hey, I have this larger concept, and I could have a whole different management experience, dashboard, everything Alan said, that's tailored around a view that's against that logical model, rather than I only see SQL Server, and it happens to have, I don't know how many nodes are in OE. I lost count. It's too big. And so this would allow us to have more scoped management experiences. So that's the kind of foundation. Uh-oh, they cut me out. Oh, no, that was just me. Phew, I thought I was talking too much. But that's the kind of models we're going after in Ops Studio. And so when we think about extensibility, there's these layers, some super simple as far as technical skills needed to extend it, some quite a bit more complex. You want to go and write a completely different extension that can talk to a different relational engine, come talk to me, but it's going to be a lot of work and stuff. But it is possible, and that's really the difference. Okay, so then as far as getting there, there's a little bit of a roadmap involved, and we're well along at least the initial phases of it. I won't read every bullet point to you, but we're kind of getting here into the healthy part of phase 2, where we've got some of the stuff out on GitHub. It's there. Really, the next biggest click stop for us is going to be a real formal marketplace. And you'll see kind of what I'm referring to here as Alan is going to show some of the details here. But right now, we have the ability to have Extension Manager as a client-side thing, much like you have in Visual Studio Code. And in fact, it's the same code. It's wonderful. I love working with those folks. But what we don't have is a formal marketplace backend yet. And really, that's a matter of us getting enough extensions. It's not that exciting to have a marketplace with 3 or 5 or whatever extensions. And so we're really kind of manually doing it. And if anybody's interested, I can talk to you how we're hosting them and that stuff for now. But eventually, we'll get critical mass there, and then we'll have enough extensions to make that a viable thing, and we'll have the ratings and that stuff. At least that's the current plans with the marketplace. So. With that said, there's a screenshot here, and I guess this was here just in case demos don't work. But the general idea is now in Ops Studio, you'll have this idea. And to prove the point, we put Redgate as a real first kind of big name partner, if you will. We've had great contributions from individuals working with us, but Redgate actually has been working with us for about, I want to say, 5 months or so. And they've actually been helping to shape Ops Studio and say, oh, hey, I need this. I need an API to do this. And so they've been working us with, and they actually have the their first extension it came out in April, right? The original one, and then a small update here in May and stuff. But anyway, so the point is that there is this extension manager experience. I think with that, I'll turn it over. You guys can listen to Alan and see it actually live. It's a lot more interesting.
Sounds good. All right, so we're back to SQL Operations Studio. As a quick call out, if any of you are following at SQL Ops Studio, I manage that account. I get notifications on my phone all the time for every like and retweet. So I'd like to keep track of any Twitter traffic that many of our users are coming up with. And one of the things is that a lot of people were just asking, hey, how do we even access Extensions Manager? So let me show you how to do that for those of you that are just maybe came from a previous release. Just right-click on the left-hand pane, and then you can see which items you want to see. So for example, there's an extension that's usually by default unchecked. Maybe in a later release, it's now
It definitely was in April. It was unchecked in April. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you just have to right-click here, and then you can see the Extensions tab now. So if you go back to Server, I can click back down into the Extensions tab. So right now, I have a list of all the extensions currently in our Extensions Manager. And I'm just going to pick a few of these and just go over the story of how we were able to bring the extensions to SQL Operations Studio. So one of the first things is that many of our users that are currently on SSMS want to see many of those same features in SQL Operations Studio. So one of the first proof of concept, you could say, would be from SQL Server Agent, which was one of the top most voted features that people were like, if I want to start using SQL Operations Studio, I need to have SQL Agent. So if you actually click on SQL Server Agent here, it has a nice intro page about what exactly is involved in SQL Server Agent. You can also uninstall, which I currently have this installed right now. You can see a changelog and see a basic screenshot here. But the main part about SQL Agent is that we also tested something that we haven't really done before, and that was to embrace this idea of open design. So what we did was that we worked with a UX designer to come up with a bunch of these mock-up screens. So let me actually pull this up here. So these were all, none of this was actually coded yet, but these were all created from InVision Sketch, like basic UX design tools. And we came up with a bunch of these requirements for just SQL Agent monitoring. And once we created these mockups, we sent them out to the community, sent them through email lists, through Twitter, and just asked the community, like, is this ideally what you want? And as a quick thing before that, we actually did a survey before we even created these mockups to just ask the community what features are absolutely required for SQL Agent. So we sent that out, got a bunch of nice results from the community, and we're able to incorporate them into our mockups. And if you actually step through here, you'll see things like there's jobs, alerts, schedules, operators. There's a troubleshooting scenario that we want to highlight here. I just walk through, yeah. Then you could see at a granular level of each job, you can get a little bit more information, such as their job history. And I could actually show the actual demo here, but these were all just mockups that are featured right now on the InVision app. So then the next step after we were able to provide all these screens, we actually also created a GitHub issue here, where we actually created a YouTube video walking through the screen and explaining our design process, and then asked the community for feedback here. And it looks like there's a lot of people that were very interested in this thread. And this is kind of the approach that we want to do with all of the features that we want to bring over from SSMS to SQL Operations Studio. So if you want to, we can plan to do a very similar thing for Profiler, or if we look at something like CMS, for example. We want to make sure that we bring the core functionality to SQL Operations Studio, but try to do a few UX refreshes because they were designed many years ago, and it's probably a good time to rethink if there's ways to improve it by reaching out to the community and asking for your feedback. Great. So let me actually go to one of our test databases here and show SQL Agent. So again, we have our server dashboard here. There's actually two different dashboards you could see. So you could, for example, the one that I showed before was at the database level, but this is a server dashboard. So they're actually not exactly the same type of widgets because obviously some things involve server level and some require database level. But at server level, I can actually click on SQL Agent here, and you have all these different agent jobs. So this is from the most recent release of SQL Agent that we had. I think we made a new release for May. And here is very basic for job monitoring. So you could see a bunch of these columns were all chosen by reaching out to the community, and they were like, we must have these columns seen at the very beginning. One of the things that showed up in the mockups but not quite seen here yet is those like green and red bars that you might have.
Run history.
Run history. That's not currently implemented yet. We had to prioritize some other features, but that will come as we spend more time on iterating on this extension. And then if we click on something like, OK, so there's some things here. You could see errors messages very clearly here, as well as jobs that ran successfully. If you actually click on here, you can see all the past runs. So maybe this one isn't as informative. Yeah, here. So you can see all the past runs for collection set 3 upload, and actually click on it and see if there's steps involved here. So there's a job step ID 1 or 2. Then you have that ability to see that. You can also click on overview to see things such as whether the alert has been set up and any last runs enabled. So the main thing here is that this is all right now a preview of SQL Agent. We still need to bring over, as you can see on this left-hand pane, we need to bring over setting up alerts and setting up operators, for example. And as we build those out, we would like to continue to work with the community to design those the right way.
Do any of you manage SQL Agent jobs today? Yeah, a decent number. Yeah, it's, again, not that SSMS is bad, but we've definitely received a fair amount of feedback that it's pretty painful to have to hop between 4 different UIs jumping all over. And a couple of things that Alan alluded to, which are important here, is so we're taking a look at that and saying, there's probably a way to streamline that. But the other thing is that there are things where we can build stuff, I'll say cheaper in a way in Ops Studio, where we don't, because much of that code is shared in SSMS across many, many dialogues. They all behave. That's one of its values. It's like it's got frameworks and the UI to create a new dialogue. You really don't do much. But you can't just change one thing very easily either, because that's connected to and impacts the implementation for a lot of features. We also, because we're in open source, we can leverage open source components. So we can find things that allow us to visualize data or display things where we have controls, more modern controls and components that we don't have today in SSMS. So if we were going to do those ourselves, we'd have to figure out how do we build that? And if it was a custom run history thing, it might be much more expensive for us to build and things. So, but that really is kind of the gist of wanting to take a step back and saying, well, what is it? And then, as you can, if you got the theme from the last thing, we're thinking about job histories in general and trying to think about that and learning from the other systems that are out there. You know, how do big data job managers look if you use Spark or other things? What have they done that works really well, and try to influence our UX designs there so that we're building with kind of the latest thinking around those things. And then obviously we want those things to be good extensibility points for folks to add in their own customizations over time too.
Next extension I want to quickly go over, following the same theme of helping SSMS users become more comfortable with SQL Operations Studio, is this SSMS Key Map extension. So this is actually created by one of our engineers, but it was created, it almost was inspired by a Twitter thread. So let me actually switch over to his blog post. So he actually created a blog post to explain how he's able to write a SQL Operations Studio extension in 15 minutes. And there was someone that tweeted, you realize, yeah, that they really wanted to have SSMS keyboard shortcuts with SQL Operations Studio because they're so used to that. So that kind of, one thing that Kevin realized is that VS Code already has these kind of key map extensions that they created. So we were thinking that we should do the exact same thing. So Kevin was able to ask the communities to come up with, these are the top SSMS keyboard shortcuts that must be included in SQL Operations Studio. And this is all available on GitHub. I believe you could just go directly to his GitHub, the SSMS Key Map GitHub, and you could make a pull request and suggest different keyboard shortcuts that should be featured in this extension. And then as soon as you just go ahead and download the SSMS Key Map, or install the SSMS Key Map extension, then you get all those same keyboard shortcuts. For example, like the results pane or executing a query. So again, this just shows the idea of how we're working with the community to build out these extensions and also to bring over or help ease the transition for people that are familiar with SSMS. One other thing that's really nice about Kevin's extension here is that we tried to make it easier for the community to build their own extensions too. So if you're able to attend the session on Monday, one thing that we used was this extension generator, which is the whole environment that we have is set up on VS Code. But what it allows you to do is it's like a Yeoman generator. You could just select something like, I want to build an insight widget. And then it just gives you a bunch of information that you need to configure your extension. And all you need to do is edit the query file, the SQL query file. And then you're able to convert it into a V6 package. And then you can simply click File, Install Extension from a V6 package to take that same extension that you just created from a T-SQL query and add it to your dashboard.
So can people get their extensions on this list if they create one that they think is good?
Yes. So if you're interested in, like, let's say that you have this awesome query that you really want, that you feel is going to help productivity for the rest of the SQL community, and you want to share this, feel free to reach out to us. Currently, we don't have like a nice publishing thing that VS Code has right now, as we're working on it. But for now, you can feel free to reach out to us on GitHub, and we can work with you to make sure that your extension is featured on this same list here. So then in future demos, we can talk about your extension as well.
Yeah, there's really a JSON file in the source code. You put a pull request in, we'll review it, we'll check out the extension, that sort of stuff. Do you want to talk about the who is active one and the story behind that, just briefly at least?
Okay, so one of the well-known MVP members that we worked with is Adam Mechanic, and he has this very commonly used SP who is active. And the main thing is that we reached out to him and was like, we want to have a proof of concept where we actually want to work on building out this extension story, and we want to use your SP who is active as an example. So we worked with him to figure out, oh, we need to have this API, and then the engineers will go back and implement that API. Or if we need to have this UI component in order to build this extension, and then they went back and we built out that UI extension. So this was a really nice, very first community-built extension where by working with them, we were able to decide like what we still need to add to our extensibility story so that people can have those same kind of tabbing features or having things like a better way to handle tasks, for example. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is the kind of the approach that we want to do with. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that if you reach out to us and you want to have your extension featured on SQL Operations Studio, we'll go through the exact same kind of process. So this was just like a first step in order to go through that. Yeah, for example, this came in the latest release. Is that we initially we had a version of SP who was active in, I believe, the March release. But there are some components that I believe Adam requested to have things such as details added. So if you click on these 3 icons on the widget, then you could see things more than just run query. You could also see details. So you can see things such as session ID or SQL text. And sometimes there's even like a link to documentation. So one thing that I wanted to show was if we go to our servers tab here, and right-click into our local host. And then we click on server reports here. And let's see, does one have a show detail? One of these. Oh, no, it was on the waits. So this tabbing feature that you see on the left-hand side, we created this because it was requested by Adam. So if we click on here and you click on show details, there's a help info URL section. So if you were curious to learn more about this Insight widget, you can go directly to this in order to go to, I believe, Paul Randall's site and learn more about wait counts. Great. And then the very last one that Ken mentioned was the Redgate SQL Search extension. So this is like our very first extension that we were able to release by working with a key partner. And we welcome all partners to also work with us to onboard extensions or even build more extensions from Redgate. And this is one of the most popular Redgate extensions, SQL Search, where you're able to save a lot of time to find a bunch of these tables, for example, or databases. And here's a great GIF that they included in their info page as well. So I believe they had a formal announcement as also in their blog post. I believe it was yesterday. So feel free to try it out, and feel free to try any of these extensions, because they're all available on our extension marketplace today.
Yeah, so I think some of the key takeaways there, if you will, the meta points, is we're trying to demonstrate that we truly want to build this with the people that are going to use it. I've worked at SQL for a long time now. I've been at Microsoft almost 20 years and 30-something years in this wonderful industry. Never have we, especially since almost 20 years at Microsoft, have we had this attitude that, you know, we maybe don't know everything. It's like, maybe not. And so it's really fun, and it's amazing the great ideas we get and the things that we would have never even thought of because we just don't do this job day to day. And then you realize, wow, it might have looked good on a whiteboard. Heck, you know, we have great engineers in design. They even made it look pretty. And then you find out it's like, yeah, that's 437 clicks that I never want to get, and you owe me an hour and a half of my life back. And so I think this is our way of trying to get out there and say, look, you all know what you do for a living much better than we'll ever know. So help us. And then for those of you that, and I saw all those hands with C#, and I took all the names. And so I would love to have you come in and help push us. We have a great team behind it that is super excited about if you say, no, here's my scenario. This is why this makes sense. I really could do ta-da. And like what Alan was saying with Adam, it's like, no, it's not just good enough to have a graph. You really need to have a drill down here. And then I can do all this work. It's super easy. And the team will go back, wow, okay, great. And then they'll go and figure out what they need to extend in the core. Or if you really want to jump into the weeds, you can jump right into the core with us and start adding features and capabilities. It's all there, and it really is. We're trying to make that a community-driven project as much as we can. We obviously are super passionate about making the SQL Server platform the best relational platform for people to manage and create applications for. And I think this is going to provide us an exciting new foundation for maybe it won't ever do everything SSMS does, but for those things where the active community really wants to do things in a new way, this is where we think we have a great opportunity to engage with folks. So that's all kind of fun and cool. And you want to go back to my, OK, there we go. That's all fun and cool, but I get fired if we don't do this. And that's really, I don't know, how many of you know Slava Ox or Ox, Slava? OK, you know SQL servers on Linux, right? OK, so the super brilliant engineering guy behind that is Slava. He's my boss. And so I work in the team that owns SQL Server as a business kind of thing, the engineering behind that. So a little less focused on cloud, for example, like SQLDB and DW are kind of different teams under Rohan. We kind of mostly focus on that thing we ship on-premise, although we do have some features in cloud. Anyway, it's too many details. Fundamentally, as a tools team, I work for that same guy that owns SQL Server, the engine. And I can tell you, let me just put it this way, Slava's an awesome guy. He's not super passionate about pixels on the screen. But when it comes to proper engineering, I've never met an engineering manager that isn't more buttoned down on this topic and making sure that whatever we build, we all have the same attitude around performance, reliability, and really sustainability of the code. And so he's super passionate about this area. And it's really nice, actually, because it's a great counterbalance to the exciting things we do over here. They're so graphical, and they're really cool, and we could do so much. And it's like, no, this keeps us grounded because we don't want 5 years to be going, oh, I wish I could change that, or man, it's crashing all the time, or I have no idea where it's so slow and stuff. Anyway, so it's really a nice ecosystem balance we have of leadership there between our design and experience side as well as our core engineering fundamentals. And so I just really wanted to share at least a little bit. These are some things that are super, super important that we get right on Ops Studio. I wouldn't say things were done wrong on SSMS. I don't want to convey this thing. But it is many years old now, and many of the modern requirements that we have didn't exist back then. One of my favorite topics is accessibility. So accessibility is now a very, very important thing for Microsoft. We're putting a lot of energy into trying to make our applications usable by people that have different skills or different disabilities so that they can have the same power of software. We use visualization for some things, but in the end, it's just to get a job done. With the right innovation, the right capabilities, and the right engineering behind it, we can make that work for everybody, not just people that happen to have great eyesight. Some people are colorblind. Some people have great visual impairments, much more significant visual impairments. We can solve a lot of those with software if we put the energy behind it. And it's a super passionate area of Satya's and Scott Gu's. And I mean, literally, we've done this for SSMS as well. I can tell you I've spent 1.5 years on SSMS alone working on accessibility, which if you go back to why I can't do a dark theme, now try to make it work well with narrator. But that's the kind of difference. As much as I'd like to have a dark theme, that's maybe more of a stylistic wish, whereas the accessibility is a core thing. And even in SMS, we're doing it. Well, same thing with Ops Studio. We're going and we're saying, no, from the ground up, this thing has to be at the right accessibility level so that we're not creating things that some people can't use. There's no excuse for that. Now, in the open source world, we have found some interesting challenges there because when we use open source software, those folks might not have the same passion around that level. So we are learning there, and how do we help those folks, or that may preclude us from using certain things where we think, oh, that's a great widget, but we can't use it because it's not accessible. We really will make those choices, and we'll do the right thing so that we can meet that kind of directive. So on here, graph-wise, this is a nice snippet from our last engineering review last week. And this is another great example of build on the shoulders of giants and good things happen. So we've been monitoring startup performance both empirically from telemetry from the tool, as well as we've built a performance lab and performance tests around startup. because nobody likes a tool that takes forever to start up. It just pisses you off every time you use it. So we've really been focusing on it because we really noticed it. Well, similar to VS Code, that's like their bread and butter. They have to be kind of the Notepad++ kind of compete. So startup performance is a key metric for them. So it turns out it's good for us because they did a whole bunch of work in the last, well, theirs actually came out in February, and I think it took us a month to pick it up and then ship it. But we got that same improvement in the packaging, and they've reduced the number of files, makes it load much faster. And we're seeing anywhere from 37, almost 50% startup performance. But the cool thing is we actually had the tasks, and we had the lab set up. So as soon as we brought it in, we were able to prove that, yep, we're seeing it. And then through telemetry, after we shipped that thing, we saw the same thing validated empirically with customers. But that's the kind of thing where we literally are trying to do that level of engineering across key metrics and make sure it's all anonymous. So just understand, I don't know whose performance, but I do know in aggregate where the long tail was, what the 90th percentile was, what the median was, and we were able to track that and say, whoa, I think we had a long tail, if I remember right, of 50 seconds or more on some startups. And you think, gosh, who's going to like have a good experience if you get hit with a startup time in that range? People are going to kill it because they're going to think it's hung. So anyway, so there's that. Security is obviously a very big deal for us. We have security reviews, so we're doing all those things. Even though it's on GitHub, I have to run all the same scans that we have of any Microsoft software that we run. We do all the same reviews. We do all the same, we call them TSA scans, which I don't remember what TSA is. It has nothing to do with people at the airport. And then GDPR compliance. How many of you folks are worried about GDPR? Yeah, me too. And so there's been a whole thing. So all this telemetry stuff has all been reviewed, and we've made code changes and all these things to make sure that there's literally no personally identifiable information, linkable data, all of that stuff. We've gone through a ton of work to make sure that we're fully compliant there. Again, it's a lot of work. And then localization, which is kind of a cool story. We didn't get, it was just this slide. Okay, thanks. Sorry, a little editorial note there. Sorry, back to regular programming. So on the localization side, it's also a very interesting world. I had no idea. Did you know there's like an open source community of people that like translate text for people? I had no idea. When I first heard about this idea of open sourcing or community, what do they call that? Community. Crowdsourcing, yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's good. The idea that some people will localize our strings and stuff for us, I laughed. I mean, literally, I laughed. I said, right, who's going to do that? That's just crazy. Yeah, this shows how like ignorant I am. But there's an entire group of people, that's what they do, and they're passionate about it. And sure enough, we put it out there, and the folks that know this ecosystem put it out, and we've been making incredible progress on getting localized languages for this because people are passionate about contributing, and that's how they do it. They don't write C#, they translate things. And I was like, that's amazing. I learned something. So again, new Microsoft, way to look at the world. It's changing. And so anyway, so that's just another good fundamental that we have to nail because eventually when we go GA, obviously there's people that are going to want it in something besides English. Same thing that we have with SMS. So we'll support all the same languages that we do for a SQL Server. So, okay, with that, the question you might be asking is, well, that's cool, but are you ever going to GA the thing? Because it's been in preview for a few months. What's your plan? So right now we know through June some things we're doing. We are quite, I'll say, quite agile in literal sense of that, well, depends how fast the month goes, what people say. There's a little bit of what is the business driving to say what we should do, but really there is an element of we don't know what we don't know, and so we just keep doing this. The team works super hard, but each sprint's a little variable. Now, our current plan is to follow Ops Studio along the VS Code model of, I'm going to call it a core, which is we don't want Ops Studio to become, well, actually, does anybody know how big the SSMS download is, the full package? 900, what is it, 900 megs or so, right? Something like that, 800, 900. Chris is on the team here. He's just here for moral support for me. Yeah, so it's like 900 megs for the full thing. It's like 380 or something like that if you don't include .NET or the VS Shell. It's a really big download, but it's got a lot of features and stuff. But I can't tell you how many times, whether it's Nick Craver from Stack Overflow, people just pinging me and saying, could you please try to work on this problem? It's a little harder than we'd like, although SSMS 18, which is not too far away, will be smaller and much faster. But anyway, focus. So along here, we're going to follow the same model as VS Code, which is we're going to keep it small in the sense there will be Ops Studio in the core, and then a bunch of extensions. And if you manage SQL Agent, great. Install it. We love it. Fantastic. Let us know if you like it, and if you want to help, that's awesome. But you don't have to install that one. You don't have to install when we have HA management. When you don't have to have all these things. But if everybody pretty much uses the editor, I can prove that if anybody doubts me. Like if you look at commands executed, well, if you said that editor was this big, everything else is about this big. So literally, I'm not kidding. Whenever we want to look at feature usage, we remove the editor, and then we talk about other features. So at any rate, so we're going to keep that small, and we're trying to GA that as soon as possible. We'd like to have that this semester. That's an internal word. By the end of June, this fiscal year. I think most people know our fiscal years. It ends in June. So we'd like to align it to that. We'll see. The one challenge is those fundamentals. If I don't make them and the team is still working on them, we won't call it GA. We will GA once we have the core editor, and, that whole grouping, server connection. When we have that core experience solid and we're standing, we'll GA that part. And then the extensions will be coming on all the time. There'll be preview extensions all the time. Yeah, question in the back? Sorry, is the profiler ever going to work with PAS? Oh, you mean, well, can I take the SQL profiler today and ever point it at SQLDB? That's the question? No. No, because SQLDB doesn't support TRC format, if I remember correctly. And also, I think there's actually even a connection issue. It doesn't have everything it needs. And also, the debugger will never work either. So neither one of those will work with SQLDB. We are aware of those challenges, and we're working on better X-event profiling capabilities in SSMS still. And then also, you'll see us take a step back and say, well, out of everything we have between profiling, query store, some other technology, we're going to build this. What does query tuning potentially mean in the Ops Studio world? Be a really great time for folks to come along. So I think if you're not in the repo, I'd love to have you join, because you'll start to see us ask questions there about those things. You can follow either this specific one on Twitter, the SQL Ops Studio account, or you can follow me, SQL Tools Guy on Twitter. We'll get the message out that, hey, we're starting to really look into what's the modern version of profiling look like. I'm desperately trying to get people to move off Profiler and into what we're calling XE Profiler in SSMS. I'd love to know, if you want to talk afterwards, specifically what you need, because the Profiler code itself is TRC-based. It's going to stay TRC-based. There's a lot of reasons, and we really want to move to an X-event Profiler experience all up. That's what you'll see in here. It'll all be X-event-based. So, okay, so with that, don't kill me if it's not June, but get in the GitHub repo, and you'll know exactly why. In fact, you'll see all the team members there. Are we going to talk about the GitHub repo? Do we have time?
I think we have
17 minutes. We have time. Yeah. OK, so I think we'll give you a little tour of the repo here in just a second. So as I mentioned, it's all being built in the open. It's there. I think, there's I'll probably go through. Did you switch?
Yep, I switched.
Oh, he switched. He's taken over. See, he knows, like, I'll just move over. So Alan will give you a quick demo of the GitHub repo, hopefully encourage you. Is anybody actually in the Ops Studio repo already? Wow, Vicky, you don't count. So anybody at all? Darn, OK, that's an exciting opportunity. So, OK, so why don't you give him a quick tour, Alan?
OK, so there's really three main points, for those of you that are not completely familiar with GitHub. I'm assuming most of you are. But the main place that you should be going towards is checking out our Issues tab. So here is just all the issues that are currently open. These are all reported by all the users. If they run into, like, let's say that this feature isn't working or this extension has some issues, they report them all here. And in our daily scrums, we actually go through and just make sure that the issues are assigned to the right people, and that we're constantly making sure that with each monthly release that we hit enough customer issues and brought those changes over with each monthly release. You have some ability to sort through these things. So one really cool one to do is by clicking on sort here and sorting it by most reactions. You can see what the community is all, like what features they really want to have. So the nice part about the issues page is not only can you report customer issues here, you could also report feature requests. So any features that you really want to see, one thing that I suggest that you do is, like, I really want to have CMS, for example, is try to look for the one for CMS, or I guess you could look for SQL agent here. You could click on it. It's taking a little bit of time here. But the idea here is that there will be a bunch of likes and reactions on here, and those will go up higher and higher. So I would suggest that you go tweet this out and be like, hey, anyone else that really wants to have SQL Agent and SQL Operations Studio, please upvote this issue. And then the engineering team will see that, and once we see like there's enough likes, then we'll try to prioritize that into our next release or add it to our roadmap.
Yeah, if I can real quick. How many of you have used the user voice Azure feedback thing or that stuff? How many times do you talk to the actual engineering team there? Yeah, pretty much, right? So what I can tell you is if you come here and you log issues, the people here, the engineering team is doing their work here. There's not like our secret TFS system over here where we're doing our real work and pretending to keep you happy over here. And not to say that I'm disparaging any team that might, that's not what I mean. But what I can say here is that we are here. We're here in GitHub. Every time an engineer finds a bug, they log the issue here. Every week when they're triaging issues and they're looking through, okay, we got these, they're triaging them and tagging them. And then you can see, what is Carl, the team lead for the course, what's Carl doing this week? What's he working on? What did he just check in? You can see all his work. You don't like his work, you can comment on it. It's awesome. So really, I'm just trying to make it, you know, that this is as, if you want to call it DevOps as you can get from an engineering standpoint. The team's out there living this as if it's there in the wide open. So I'd really encourage you, if you have an issue but you kind of maybe feel like, I don't know if it's worth telling Microsoft because, well, I'm not even sure the team's ever going to see it. The product team usually gives me that same string that they gave 400 other people and that stuff. Not here. You'll actually see the team's here. And then if you want to ask somebody a question, the real engineering team is right there. The PMs are there. The UX designers are there. So I can't stress enough how excited we are to be able to develop this way at Microsoft. So I just encourage you, if you've ever had an inclination to jump in on a fairly substantial project in the early phases, this is, I think, a great opportunity for that.
And to add on to that, you could actually filter this label for help wanted. So we have some labels here. To help find, oh, I need to clear this out. Now let's try it again. Oh, it looks like it's not clearing here. Okay, the idea here is that you could change this with help wanted. And then if I remove, you can see a bunch of issues where we label this help wanted tag. And one of the most recent ones was a SQL agent UX prototype here. So this is where we're asking the community, please help us as we try to incorporate this open design concept. So feel free to play around with the different labels and sorting functions to figure out what we're trying to prioritize. And make sure to tweet it out and share with any of your Twitter followers. Another thing to check out here is by clicking on code, you could see our insider builds. So if you click on releases here, you could see, for example, our most recent May public preview. But you could also see like there's some release notes here. You can see our insider build. So you could come and grab these. We should probably feature this in a nicer place, like VS Code has it right next to their official stable releases. We should probably do something with that as well. But for now, all our insider builds are here. So if you want to play around with something before it's officially released for our monthly release, you could check them out here. And then lastly, please check our wiki. So if you want to get started in terms of contributing to SQL Operations Studio, you can learn by following these instructions here. We also have getting started for extensibility. And we try to keep these documentation updated, so feel free to check this out.
Yeah, and that's, again, as we were trying to say, we're trying to document and support everything as we're going. So again, unlike some of the challenges we've had in the past where we build a ton of code and then some other people try to document things and the APIs don't maybe match exactly what was documented or those seem to be separate releases. we're trying to keep that all up to date, and they have the engineering team and the PM team working very closely together. As we're changing it, we're updating everything in real time. And then, of course, if you see something wrong, it's very easy to just put a pull request right there and say, hey, you actually got this wrong, the parameters are backwards, or you really should learn how to spell, or whatever it might be. So I think, again, I think we're trying to do all that out there so folks can find easy ways to get in, plugged in, and as Alan said, even if you don't have the time to code because you have to make a living too, at least the issues is great, and being able to tell us what you need, what you want, those sort of things. So I think that'd be great. Let's see, so I think I kind of talked about this whole slide. So, yep, help us. It's an awesome journey. Please come join us. So there's a few links in the slides here. I don't know if anybody wants those. You can take a picture, but the top link is pretty easy if you're familiar with aka.ms things. It's just SQL Operations Studio, and that'll get you to the kind of the docs page, which has most everything. You can link from there, and then follow the Twitter account, those things. So with that, we've got pretty good time, actually, 10 minutes. This is like a record for me. Normally, they only give me, what is those, like 50-minute sessions, and the pouring people in after me or like begging for me to get off the stage. Anyway, so we have a little time for Q&A, and I think besides the giant bright light, I think I see a hand in the far back. Yeah. Yes, that was an eye test, and you passed. So no, thank you very much. Yep. Okay. So much for taking a picture of the slide, other than to prove that we didn't test the links in the PowerPoint. So yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. It's all right. I wasn't going to call you out. It's okay. No. Okay. Any other questions? Got to be some questions. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah, so the question is, if I'm going to have an extension, is it supported on Mac, Windows, and Linux? Is that true? Yes, that is the goal for sure, yes. So I think it's hypothetically possible we could have some Windows-only extension at some point if we said, oh, well, we want to, I'm totally making this up, we're not doing this. We wanted a Windows failover clustering extension for folks running availability groups on Windows. You might say then, well, that extension only, but in general, yes, they all should be built so that the extensions all work on all platforms. Today, I can tell you it's very low-tech solution. We have an Azure Blob Storage account. So for those extensions that we build and we can review the code ourselves, we actually have the link to there. For code where somebody's contributing it completely independent and says, but I'd really like to be in your initial marketplace list, we can have a URL and link out to a website that you put together that then the customer can review and download, but we can't host the code if we haven't had a chance to review it and make sure that everything meets our standards. So is that, yep, yes? So the question is, are we going to have a right-click option to edit the table schema, as well as maybe edit the data? Well, we have that. But you actually want like a table designer kind of concept. I think the answer is in the limit, yes, although it's not currently funded as a thing. I would conjecture it's a safe bet to say we can't have a modern tool set without decent designers, mainly around table schema. I don't know, you guys can tell me, or the community can tell us whether we need query designers. But yeah, I expect we'll definitely have a table designer at some point. Or somebody could write it, and I would give you a giant high five and a Snickers bar. When you write the kind of tables like that, you get the list of all the records and you edit them? Yes. An easy way to use the SQL to quantify and narrow down your edit results? That sounds like a great thing to go to the GitHub repo and say, nice, but I really want to add this capability here. So this is so awesome because I can just point you straight to that. And it's not me pointing you to, you all used Connect in the past? Yeah, my favorite UI too. it's not, it's legit. So if you put it there, we'll review it, we'll look at it. The other thing to do is if somebody else is excited about it and they say, oh yeah, I actually would love to, maybe that's a great thing for me to go do. Because a lot of times people that want to jump in aren't going to say, I'm going to go build the Flabinsky rotator extension and it's like some giant project. But they might say, oh, actually I could do it. In fact, you saw we had save to Excel as an option. We didn't write that. We wrote all the structure around how to save results, and we did CSV and JSON, and somebody said, why don't you have Excel? You guys are so stupid. And so they actually went and did it and gave us a pull request. So it was awesome. And so, I mean, it's always for us a matter of, sure, it's just when. We only have so many people, so things get stuff. So do that. And then we do look at vote count, so this little thumbs up is kind of our version of vote count here. So definitely, as people make those higher priorities, we try to prioritize that work as well. We also try to leave enough slack in the system so that every sprint we're picking up some of the community items as well as the, oh, okay, Slava's yelling at Ken, we better get this working, or we got to get these things done and that sort of stuff. So that can happen, but we do try to keep enough slack in the system so that we're also pulling in items specifically from the community around the features that we've already shipped or ideas for those. So, okay. There's got to be more. Yeah, one more. Can I integrate this with Windows Admin Center? Is that what Project Honolulu got called? Okay, good. So you can see I'm a little behind. I have no idea, to be honest. I must admit my ignorance on that. I don't actually know. My guess is no, but I don't know. So safe answer, no. If that's something that, see, they gave me the yellow light, which that means I win, right? And we get to do it all again. I'm sorry, 5 minutes. So not right now, but you can contact me or even put on GitHub if you want to explain a little bit more. But we haven't done any work to do that, so I'm sure there's something we have to do. What else we got? Anybody else? Yeah, mostly just around schema design and editing. What about query or view? What's that? 19 thumbs up on the SQL pane in edit mode. All right. Cool. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, wait. Okay, go ahead. I already said it.
For Visual Studio Code, you can download a 32-bit version. The whole thing with Windows 10 ARM.
Yep. I don't think we have the ARM build out right now. I think we need to go look and see. That's relatively new. So I think code for 64 just came out, right? And so actually, to be honest, I have to go double check and see if we updated our code extension to build for 64-bit. In the end, I don't expect it'll be too much of a deal for us because it's all managed code for us and standard .NET Core we're building on top of for the majority of it. So I would imagine it's just us doing some engineering systems work, but I don't think we've done it yet, but I can go back and double check. Yeah. And then we had one more.
Yes, if someone writes something and submits a request, that's available in GitHub. It's through extension.
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually have separate repos right now for extensions or kind of hanging out in a different place, but we did kind of create a structure because I don't want to create a new GitHub repo every time I go or the team creates, well, hi, like I do any work, I just go to meetings. But we didn't want to have to create a repo for every extension. So we have a repo there. If you're going to create an extension yourself, you could talk to us about whether that's the right place to put the code because long term you're like, well, I'll get this started, but I don't really want to make it my thing. Versus you might say, well, actually, I want to have this, but I'm actually going to monetize my extension, or I'm going to have a freemium thing, or it's a thing that I'm going to do because it's an UI into some other system, whatever it might be. Then I would probably recommend that you have your own repo that way and build system and that stuff. And then right now, as I mentioned, would really want to talk about, okay, what's the right way that we link it? But at the very least right now, we'd have the extension manager integration where you could be listed and then would link out to your website that describes it and where users could look into what it is and that sort of stuff. And then they would have to just download the V6 that way and install it manually. But that's something that we'll get better as time goes on. Standing up the marketplace is, like I mentioned earlier, very exciting to us. But you have to have enough there to make it worthwhile to run it and stand behind it and do all the work to make it viable. I have 1 minute and 41 seconds. That it? All right. Well, thank you very much. I very appreciate you all coming out. So,